Hey dudes, welcome back to The Bants. As always, I am your host, The Bants, and here we are at the beginning of the weekend. It is finally Friday. I hope you are all ready to enjoy it, but of course, before we get into that, it is time for our first and unfortunately only WHIF for the week, so let's just get right into it. And first up, of course, we have our headline for the day, and in our headline of the day, let's now actually talk about the full 25th anniversary collection from A Bathing Ape. Now, as some of you remember, a couple of months ago, the 25th anniversary collection from Bape was shown off, and I wasn't too enthused about it. Aside from mostly just the lackluster designs in general, I also wasn't really happy with just the size of the collection. It felt very small to me, and after seeing this collection, I now understand why. What Bape showed off here in their 25th anniversary exhibit was not only the clothing they showed off before, but as well as some new clothing with a huge laundry list of different collaborations, as well as more things such as toys and art pieces as well. And as far as the exhibit goes, I think Bape actually did a very nice job here. Not only was I happy with the amount of pieces that came out of this exhibit, but also the amount of variety in these pieces as well. Plus, it was nice to see some of the older collaborators returning, such as Shinsuke Takazawa of Neighborhood, Skate Thing of former Bape fame and now of CE, Cav M fame, and even graffiti artists like Hayes showing up as well. But with all of that now said, let's actually get down to the meat of this conversation. This show isn't called What's Happening in Exhibits, this show is called What's Happening in Fashion. And what do I think of all the fashion in this 25th anniversary collection? I still think overall it's really not that good. But let's try and start off with some of the good, shall we? I think that there are some pieces in this collection that overall are very nice. I think a lot of those collaborative throwbacks with a lot of those people I mentioned earlier, the graphics there, pretty cool overall. I also think that a lot of the crazier collaborations, such as the Swarovski Bapestas, and even the UGG collaborations, although definitely not for me, are very interesting as well. But by far and above, the best pieces out of all of this collection are definitely the Bape, Mitchell & Ness, and NBA collaborations, which unfortunately I don't have a lot of time to talk about here, so that will get its own separate video. But at the very least, if you're going to check out something from this collection, definitely check out those pieces. And I know what you may be thinking, Bance, that's actually a pretty long list of good items you just listed off. And although yes, I would agree with you, everything I just talked about only results to maybe about 25 to 30% of the overall 25th anniversary collection. But when it comes to the other 70-75% of this whole collection, the pieces are just really not that good. And if I really had to break down the rest of this collection into just one simple term, it's just that this whole collection is pretty much uninspired. Now let me explain. As I said before, there are a lot of collaborations in this collection. And although that is a good thing, for Bape it is also really nothing new. I mean, let's take a look at some of these collaborators here. Neighborhood. Bape usually does at least one collaboration with them a year. Same thing goes for Mastermind Japan. Also, same thing with G-Shock. They usually do at least a couple different watches a year. And as far as Bearbrick goes, they always release a couple every season. So what I'm trying to get at is that whether or not this was a 25th anniversary collection, there's a very good chance that these same pieces would have shown up if this had been the 24th or 26th or any other year instead. And as for some of the crazier collaborations, even for as cool as they are, such as the Swarovski Bape head, or even the Bape Barbie, or even the F1 Bape Racer, the fact of the matter is that Bape, first and foremost, is a clothing company, and as interesting as these pieces are and as cool as this exhibit is, for 99.999% of us, these pieces are meaningless because they don't translate into something that we can actually own or buy or wear. And last and definitely not least, I have to once again bring up the main line of Bape's 25th anniversary collection, which once again really wasn't that good, was very lazily done, and although there are a couple things here and there in it, such as once again the letter camel being somewhat decent, overall it's really not that good either, and that's pretty much the bulk of this collection. So all in all, what do I think about this collection? I think that Bape at least attempted to do a better job here, and I can at least respect them for that. But really, when it comes down to it, it almost seems like they're just kind of tacking on the 25th anniversary idea to this collection. Because really, not a lot of this stuff here stands out as being part of an anniversary collection at all. And really, for as nice as some of these pieces are, overall, it still doesn't make up for a really bad collection. But with all that now said, what do you guys think? Do you guys think that Bape did a good job here? Do you agree with me and think that it was pretty lackluster overall? Did you think it was actually horrible? Whatever your thoughts, I'd love to know. I'd love to know what you guys think about all of this. Also, on a interesting side note, underneath the links to some more photos from these exhibits and collections, I'm also linking an article where Hypebeast did an interview with some of the more well-known collaborators in this collection, such as Shinsuke and Skate Thing, just to name a few. But the most interesting interview in this whole article, I think, is with the current owner of Bape. And if there's one interview you're going to read in this one, I think it should be his, because it might kind of shed some light on why Bape is the way Bape currently is right now. And that's just some food for thought. But with now all of that out of the way, let's finally move on to our art stories for the day. And first up, High Society put out a list of what they consider to be their favorite dozen art galleries and museums out of Berlin. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about these, I would definitely give this a read. Then Juxtaposed did a nice little overview of all the artists that were invited to Crush Walls Festival in Denver, Colorado, giving you a little bit of an introduction to each, plus showing off some photos of their murals as well. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about these artists or seeing their works, I would definitely give this a look. And lastly, Juxtaposed also sat down for an interview with art duo Sheryo and Yok. So if you're interested in seeing a little bit more of their works or getting to know the artists a little bit better, I'd definitely give this a read as well. Okay, and now moving back into our fashion section for the day. First up, brand Stamped showed off 2 lookbooks from their fall-winter 2018 season, and honestly, it's just not that good. I personally like to call it the Publish problem. As some of you may be aware of, there is another brand out there called Publish, and their kind of mantra is to just kind of throw as many darts as they can at the wall and see what just sticks. It goes back to the idea of jack of all trades, master of none, but better than being a master of one, except instead of being a jack of all trades, they just suck. And really, that's pretty much the same problem that Stamped is having here. Stamped is really trying to hold down too many different genres here. I mean, we see that kind of more luxury streetwear vibe they've always kind of had, mixed in with some contemporary ideas, even some high-end workwear ideas, some athleisure as well. Plus we're seeing a whole slew of different materials, everything from your cottons and your twills to your wax fabrics to even your nylons, especially in those athleisure pieces, plus just an insane amount of different colors, everything from your athleisure being in its neons to the workwear kind of being in those camos, and then obviously their high-end streetwear in its traditional black and whites, and then contemporary pieces in more blacks and tans. And really, it's just way too fucking much. Really just feels like they were grasping at straws for whatever was possibly trendy they could get their hands on, and ended up just grabbing onto handfuls of garbage instead. And although yes, I did say that I kind of enjoyed Stamped back in the day, the main reason I don't anymore is because of this, because they've just been trying to chase the trends and they really just can't do that. The only thing they've ever really done well is that luxury streetwear in very kind of monotone colors, and even that shows in this collection. There actually is a handful, and I mean just a handful, of some really fantastic pieces, in my opinion, in these two lookbooks. And what are they? They're black and white and have some interesting aesthetics on them, and they're exactly the same thing you'd see Stamped pumping out 5-7 years ago. So this really leads to my question to Stamped. If you can still continue to pump out new and interesting designs from the same style that you've always been really good at, why chase these trends? You're not good at it, your designs suck, they're all over the place, they're not cohesive, these aesthetics in these things don't make any fucking sense, and yet you continue to do them. Season after season, year after year, and somehow you guys have survived. Why even bother? It just goes back to what I always say. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. Especially in Stamp's case here, because they just suck at everything else. But now moving on to something a little bit nicer, we finally saw the lookbook drop from Sacai's Fall/Winter 2018 collection. And what can I say? It's just amazing. Really, if you have never checked out Sacai before, or even if you had, take a look at this lookbook. Words really can't describe how nice it is, but even so, I'm still gonna try. Everything about this collection just screams maximalism done correctly. There are just so many different styles and materials and textures and layering interacting with one another just so well, and even for as much of a clusterfuck as it seems, the way that Bape just kind of stitches everything together and silhouettes the pieces into fits like this, just it's amazing. That's all I can really say. It's just really amazing. Whether you're a fan of just maximalism or high-end fashion, high-end styling, or maybe you're just a fan of fashion design in general, whatever the reason, check out this lookbook. I can't get enough of it, and you definitely will not be disappointed. And lastly, Hong Kong-based label Workware, that's one word with wear being spelled W-A-R-E, not W-E-A-R, showed off their Fall/Winter 2018 lookbook, and I think it's pretty nice. Even though this collection is definitely a much more toned down contemporary style than what I normally show on this channel, I still think that if you're a fan of contemporary, it's definitely worth looking over. There's a plethora of different styles in this collection, with many coming from the idea of a more classic menswear approach, but even so, there's enough contemporary flair and detailing aesthetics here and there that help really boost this collection into something more than just another run-of-the-mill boring contemporary collection. It's also very reasonably priced for what it is, with pretty much everything in this collection going for anywhere between $100 to $300, which especially for contemporary pieces is very much on the cheaper side. So if you are a fan of contemporary and are maybe looking for something a little bit more toned down, a little bit more muted than what I normally show, definitely check out this collection. Pretty interesting overall. Alright, and finally guys, let's move on to our articles for the day. And First Up Retail Dive did a very interesting write-up on whether or not they believe culture being integral to branding, and they really kind of go into a couple ideas of how you can fuse the two ideas, because in all honesty they believe so, and personally I do too. So if you're trying to start up a brand or just trying to learn a little bit more about the idea of bringing culture into a brand, I definitely give this a read. Then Highsnobiety put out a very nice article on why the Grateful Dead and tie-dye prints have become all the rage recently. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about the history of this type of fashion, I definitely check this out. And lastly, and in a very rare occurrence, Rei Kawakubo sat down for an interview with the New York Times, going over not just her history, but some of her ideologies and where she's going as well. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about her, and I definitely suggest you do, I would definitely check out this interview as well. Alright guys, and with that, we reached the end of our first and final WHIF for the week. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and as always, if you want to see some of the images I wasn't able to include or read any of the articles I talked about today, I've linked everything in the description down below. And if you are new here, then welcome. We do these What's Happening in Fashion videos usually twice a week at the beginning and end of the week, plus another occasional video here or there. So if you're interested and want to see more, feel free to subscribe. Otherwise, if you just have any questions, comments, concerns, or even just want to talk fashion in general, feel free to hit me up in the comments. I am always willing to talk fashion. And thank you all once again for watching these videos and supporting my content. I hope you all have a great weekend ahead of you, and as always, until next time.